Stephen Curry has revolutionized the game of basketball with his insane shooting ability. 4 championships, 10 All-Stars, and 2 MVPs is no easy task. But before he was a top 10 NBA player of all time, he was the 300th ranked recruit in the class of 2006. And he was struggling to find a place to play basketball after high school. The 6'2" skinny point guard from North Carolina would eventually commit to the Davidson Wildcats and immediately make every other program regret passing on him.
Jump shot. Here he is. Can he hit this one? See a 2 in trouble. Here's Curry.
As a freshman, Curry averaged 22 points per game and did something that was unlike any freshman player we've ever seen before. He shot 9 threes per game and made 41% of them that season, but his dominance didn't stop there. During his freshman year, he led Davidson to an NCAA tournament berth, which was only their 4th in school history. Even though they lost in the first round that year, it was only the beginning of a long story that would result in one of the greatest March Madness runs ever. During his sophomore season, Curry once again led the team to the NCAA tournament, which was their first back-to-back appearance ever. Except this time, they would go on to upset powerhouses like Gonzaga, Georgetown, and Wisconsin to make it all the way to the Elite Eight. He had one of the best collegiate careers ever. Allen Iverson is just as influential as Curry was. Maybe not on the actual game itself, but when it comes to basketball culture, no one even compares to the best pound-for-pound scorer in NBA history. He propelled himself to the top of high school basketball, and there were lots of doubts surrounding his height and his decision to play basketball over football. But Iverson attended Georgetown, and the rest is history. Iverson was absolutely dominant at Georgetown University, and from the highlights you could see that. During his 2 years there, the Hoyas made it to the Sweet 16 and then the Elite Eight, winning a total of 520 games while he was there. He started all but one game during his career, and he averaged 20 points his freshman year and then 25 his sophomore season. He'd end up being picked first overall in the 1996 NBA draft, where he would win an MVP, lead the league in steals 3 times, and win an MVP all at 6 foot. If you want to talk about a guy that had insane potential coming out of college, look no further than Anthony Davis in 2012. This dude could literally do everything on a basketball court but shoot the 3-ball, and he did so in dominant fashion. I'm talking blocks, dunks, post play, and everything in between. This guy was an anomaly, and yes, he still had the unibrow. He averaged 14 points a night on 62% shooting from the field, and he's one of the 2 guys to win a national championship on this list. Stay tuned to see who the other one is. During this season, AD broke Kentucky's record for most blocks in a single season. He won the Naismith Player of the Year award, and he won the Final Four Most Outstanding Player award. Keep in mind, he did this all at the age of 19 years old. You may know this guy as the big fundamental, but in college, Tim Duncan was known as the epitome of excellence. His veteran-esque play mixed in with his adaptability over his 4 years at Wake Forest makes him one of the best college players ever. Even though he didn't win a national championship, the 5-time NBA champion was a force to be reckoned with in his younger years. Duncan won the ACC Player of the Year award twice during his time at Wake Forest, and he led the Deacons to back-to-back ACC titles in 95-96. He made both the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 while boasting 21 points and 15 rebounds a game during his senior season. And many of you might not know this, but Duncan was actually training to be an Olympic swimmer before he became a basketball legend. He allegedly stopped swimming because of his fear for sharks, so let's all take a moment to appreciate one of the ocean's top predators. Russell Westbrook's resume in the NBA speaks for itself, and you could imagine that he was dominant during his time at UCLA. Westbrook averaged a triple-double 4 different times during his NBA career, and along with that, he won an MVP and made 9 different All-NBA teams. But let's travel back in time and look at his highlights during his time with the UCLA. Other guys on this list, Westbrook's numbers weren't spectacular. In his senior season at UCLA, he averaged 13 points and only 4 assists per game. But in the 2 years he was there, they made the Final Four and he was a main contributor. Looking back, his college career really foreshadowed his NBA one, because his athleticism was on a different level and his game translated perfectly to the NBA. But it's safe to say that he surprised many when he came into the league and found immediate success. One of his teammates is coming up, so make sure you stay watching. But for now, let's highlight one of the most interesting players in the history of basketball. Kawhi Leonard had so many noteworthy moments and accomplishments during his time in the league. From having his laugh go viral to clamping up the best player in the league at 22 years old in the finals, he has been awesome to watch the past 13 years. But it all started in San Diego State.
Here's Leonard. Shot clock at 4. Over Fernandez. Finally, he rattles one in. Leonard.
After his sophomore year, it was pretty clear that Leonard was ready for the NBA. Even though they qualified for the tournament and lost the first game during his freshman year, Kawhi's mix of defense and offensive growth led to a dominant season for the Aztecs in 2011. They finished 34-3 overall and eventually advanced to the Sweet 16, where they lost a heartbreaker to UConn. But in the process, he became one of the best players in San Diego State history. He was drafted by the Pacers 15th overall and traded to the Spurs, where his legacy would be cemented forever. Kawhi was able to bring Toronto their first NBA championship, and he won 2 depoys in his career. This has given him ultimate respect amongst the league, constantly being regarded as a top 50 player in NBA history. Here is where we talk about Westbrook's best teammate ever, and that's Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant wasn't a secret like some other guys on this list, but he blew all of his expectations out of the water. When he was drafted, a lot of analysts said that he was too skinny to compete in the league. And honestly, after you watch his highlights at Texas, you can tell all of the doubts were laughable. Durant was a 6'9" sharpshooter during his time in a Longhorns uniform, and he only spent a year there because of how good he was. During his freshman campaign, Durant averaged 26 points a night, while shooting 40% from 3 and 47% from the field. He was the consensus National Player of the Year in 2007, and honestly might be the best college freshman of all time. Unfortunately, the Longhorns didn't make it past the second round, but by then, KD definitely knew that he was going to the NBA. And since then, Durant has won an MVP, led the league in scoring 4 times, won 2 championships, and is now considered a top 15 player ever. We all knew this guy would be on the list, so let's take a look at the GOAT's college career. Nobody knew that Michael Jordan would end up being a top 2 player to ever pick up a basketball, but he did just that. And his time at UNC certainly paved the way. Even though he always wanted to go to UCLA, he ended up in Chapel Hill, and that was definitely the best thing for him. His college numbers don't pop off the paper like Curry's or KD's, but NBA scouts definitely saw the NBA potential. In the 1982 national championship, Dean Smith trusted a young MJ to take one of the final shots and he drilled it. This would end up being the game winner, and this was the first moment that Jordan let everyone know that he was going to be here for a long time and that he was always going to take the final shot. He would go on to be one of the best players in the NCAA throughout his 3-year tenure there, and as a senior, he averaged 20 points and 5 rebounds a game. His mix of flashy dunks and maneuvers around the basket foreshadowed what was to come throughout his NBA career. And there's only one phrase that needs to be said to describe his time in the league: 6-0.